in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show, episode 371. Mr. Somich.
Golden Gate, huzzah!
Oh, boy,
you're
we're
pulling
excited.
the football out?
Oh, yeah, it literally arrived like 10 minutes before we came on air. Yeah, this wonderful Wilson LA Rams Super Bowl football. My son turns 1 on Sunday, and he's already an LA Rams fan, and he's got the shirt, the Super Bowl champ shirt, now he's got the football to go with it. So how does your non-Super Bowl team doing over there, Mike?
It's a draft night, man. It's a new season here. Lots of upside for the Dolphins. We got a couple nice pickups there, a couple new weapons for Tua. So we'll probably go one game over 500 this year.
Hey, there you go. Listen, we've got a special guest here. We are covering Golden Gate Field's late pick 4 on Saturday, April 30th, because it is Gold Rush weekend. What that means is that over the 2 days, April 30th, May 1st, Saturday, Sunday, they have 8 stakes worth a total of $800,000 in purses. On top of that, the late pick 4 and the pick 5 pools for just Saturday and Sunday combined $600,000 guaranteed money in there. So we're going to try and take some of that. It's $200K for the pick 4. So we've got that to go, and we've got the voice of Golden Gate Fields himself, Matt Dinerman here. Mike, I'm very excited to have Matt on.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I have some specific Golden Gate questions that may change my ticket. This is not an easy sequence by any means. I'm going too deep in a leg with a 9-2 shot and a 20-1 shot. This thing will pay if it hits. So I'm excited to kind of dive into this and get over it. I love me some Golden Gate, man. My 2 NHC runs are all thanks to Golden Gate. So I'm happy to go to this track and see if we can crush it. Hopefully give them some love and see if we can get these pools big, because these two cards are phenomenal. I got through Fridays earlier today. I got through the late pick 4 here on Saturday, started looking at some of the early races. We've got big competitive fields, which is what kind of leads to big-time payouts. So hopefully people show some love for Golden Gate this weekend.
It is a huge weekend there. We're excited. Matt's here. Let's get into it, Mike. Riders up. All right, joining us now, and his face is half covered. Off to a great start already. There we go.
There you go. Hi, guys.
What's up, Matt?
Simulcast host as well, so if you play Golden Gate in between the races, Matt's the one on the mic giving you advice about what's going on. Matt, thank you for joining us. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, they say that I have a decent enough voice. Face for TV, I don't know. So even your graphics guy is giving me a signal here. At least he's being honest, right?
Matt, before we get into it, just had a couple of angles, handicapping angles we wanted to ask you about. You are the expert for it. Mike's our local expert. You are the true expert. So favorite handicapping angles when it comes to Golden Gate. If it's a new player, hasn't been to the track before, and it's synthetic instead of dirt, what would you recommend for him?
I think that a horse that's patient and is tactical it's very important. If you have a horse on the Tapeta, for example, that on dirt, for example, they're rank or they're a little bit aggressive, that doesn't always fare well for the Tapeta. If you have a horse that's nice and relaxed, that's a good thing. So if you get a horse from Southern California, for example, on the Tapeta, and they're known to be a little bit of a runoff or has a tough time settling down, I really think that's a negative. And I think that really when you're looking at these races, you have to remember that whether it's turf or Tapeta, these races at Golden Gate are very trip dependent. Sometimes the best horses don't always win here. Sometimes the horses with the best trips win. And especially, and we'll talk about in the San Francisco Mile on the turf later on, I mean, that's going to be a race that the winner's probably going to get a good trip, and you're probably going to have a few horses that don't get good trips that could have won that don't win. So I would say when you're looking at these races, try to figure out who's going to get the best trip, and that's very important.
I love it, man. It's like we had a pre-production meeting here because you're leading right into my first question for you. How hard is it to win from the 14 post over that turf course going a mile? I mean, we've got a lot of the favorites in that first race who are set up outside. It makes it a lot harder to get a trip at a lot of places. What kind of run-up can we expect into that first turn? And how often do you see horses, let's say from the 8, 9, 10 outside win races going a mile over Golden Gate's turf?
Yeah, I mean, it's about, I would say, a little over a furlong into the first turn. The turns are fairly tight here at Golden Gate Fields. It's the same configuration as Santa Anita. It's the same configuration as Del Mar here in California, 7/8 turf track. On the same token, the turns I think are a little bit tighter here, and I've only seen one race where we've had 14 horses, and I wasn't actually calling the race, and they were coming out of the chute, a mile and a 16th on the turf, and the 14 hole did that horse no favors. I think it's going to be very difficult to win from out there, and I think that even though the field will be spread out, it's going to be packed up enough to where you're going to be caught wide into that turn, I think, from the outside.
So that is a good angle, is be very wary when you get far outside going to turns. Yeah. What's a really overused angle that you might hear public touts or even just the public in general say, oh, I love this angle, You're like, that doesn't actually really work that well at Golden Gate.
I would say, well, this one is a little bit, it doesn't work at Golden Gate, and it doesn't work as much for me. I think it's a very hit or miss angle as the first time gelding angle. And the reason is specifically at Golden Gate, in a place like Keeneland, Santa Anita, Belmont, usually you can see a first time gelding horse improve, and typically they can do that anywhere. At Golden Gate, if you've got, for example, a claiming horse or just a decent enough horse that's a first time gelding, I think it's a very hit or miss angle here. I think, sometimes horses really improve. Most of the time, I don't think it does that much really. So that's sort of my overused angle. It can be effective, but it's something that's very hit or miss. And I think that's anywhere.
I think that's a great one. I think people overplay it in claiming races, especially when you're at the higher levels and you geld a horse and then run them back into stakes or N2X or things like that. It makes a ton of sense. When you geld a horse and drop it for 5K, I mean, right. you really expect that big of a jump. It's definitely a good point there. One that I hear all the time is that speed over the synthetic is good. That closers, it's tough for closers to win at Golden Gate. When I watch, I don't necessarily see that large of a bias over the main track. What do you think about how the main track plays? We've got a lot of speed horses here in one of the stakes races. Is speed good there? Is it a pretty fair track?
What's really interesting is when I first got here, that was 6 years ago, when I was just the paddock analyst. I just would handicap before the races. Frank Miranda was calling here at the time. And the speed was not good. You had to get a clear lead. It had to be an easy lead. If there was any sort of duel on the lead, any sort of contentious pace, you weren't winning. I was always looking for horses off the pace. Now you see a lot of speed horses go gate to wire, and I think it's a lot more fair. I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a speed bias every day. Have I seen a speed bias track for a race day? Sure. But I wouldn't say that's the case all the time. And I've also seen certain tracks that it plays towards off the pace horses. So it can even change during the day, these synthetic surfaces, really. So, but I would caution watching a few races, seeing, okay, how's this track playing today? And then going from there when you're ready to make your money.
Mike, do you have anything else? You ready to dive into this?
I got one more. Then I'm done. Sneaky trainers. Like everyone knows Jonathan Wong, right? Everyone knows to play Jonathan Wong. People play horses coming from the South a lot. You'll see those trainers get played. Who doesn't take enough money in these pools from a training perspective? Who are some trainers that we should kind of take a second look at when we're playing Golden Gate?
One trainer that's very under the radar is Jack Steiner, and he's got a good percentage on the page. His horses can get bet. It's not that they don't get bet, but he typically gets overlooked. And Jonathan's a good horseman. Jonathan, for example, he is very good at spotting his horses. But at times, and this is not a knock on Jonathan, and Jonathan, I've talked to him about it, and he'll even say there are times where his horses get overbet. And you may look and you might gravitate towards his horses. You might say, oh, well, because it's Wong's horse, he must be ready to run a winning race. Sometimes they get overbet, and sometimes they go off at underlays, and sometimes they lose. And we've got good trainers here. I mean, Jack Steiner, one of them. Tim McCanna, he's having a really good meet. Steve Sherman's always been a household name here. Blaine Wright, his horses sometimes get overlooked in the betting pools, and Blaine can come with a price. every now and then. And Jamie Thomas, he's another one that sometimes his horses can get overlooked as well. So those are just some names of trainers that are alternatives. People are going to easily gravitate towards Jonathan's horses, but they're not unbeatable either. And you see some of these favorites of his get beat at low odds, and maybe they shouldn't be that low, and the payoffs increase because of it.
I love it. I didn't use either of the Steiner horses, so I might be in trouble here. We got two of them in the late pick 4. But I do like the Blaine Wright thing. We'll get to that one soon.
Okay. I was going to say, you put smiles on both our faces talking about those trainers for different reasons.
Beautiful. That's my job, to put smiles on your faces. That's why I'm here.
Well, and Mike, I think it's a great transition right into the first race, because not only do we have a Jack Steiner horse, we also have a Blaine Wright horse that we're going to talk about. And this, to kick off your late pick 4, Matt, I don't know who was in charge of setting this up, but race 9 being the grade 3 San Francisco Mile, this is like Led Zeppelin coming on stage and boom, starting with Stairway to Heaven. They're like, hey, here's the best thing we've got that you're going to absolutely love and you're going to go crazy about. Stairway to Heaven, you go crazy in a good way. This one, 14 horses, 8 from Southern California. Mike and I were talking, this is insane. This is going to be a fun race, but from handicapping perspective, I'm kind of going crazy. So as the local expert, who is the best local horse in the San Francisco Mile?
The best local horse going right now is Tom's Surprise, in my opinion, for Jack Steiner, coincidentally. he is a very sneaky good horse. He has a really big burst of speed. He's got a really nice turn of foot. He's by Tom's tribute, so not a surprise. He liked the turf last time. He's done a lot of his better runs on the synthetic. When he gets a pace, he comes with a big run. And there have been a couple races as of late where this horse has opened up on the competition against easier, and you can just see the burst of speed. You can see the strides change, and he's really got a nice kick, and I think it's going to set up well for him. He'll need to run the best race of his life to win, but he is a horse that's going under the radar, and for me, as a local horse, I will be using him on tickets. I think you have to. He's a very good horse, and he's better than maybe the page indicates, and he's going in the right direction.
Yeah, I did use him, and at 12-1, it's a great price. I was a little surprised when I saw that, but you're right, Matt. From a buyer perspective, especially, he needs to continue improving. But since Steiner claimed him in route races, he's 4 for 6. That one bad effort he had was when he was trying to turf sprint. So the fact that he's 4 for 6 off the routes and steadily strong buyers for this field, for what this group could be. So I like him here, but Mike, I know you didn't use him. Do you want to tell us why?
Yeah, he was actually my 5th horse in the race. I ended up going 3 deep here. For me, it was the post. It seems like to ask for the best effort of his horse's career while breaking from the 12 post and taking that step up in class to me was just a little bit too much to ask. I love the price. I think that you definitely see the horse running the best of his career, but this is significantly better. I mean, we're running 62 N2X, and we're jumping up here into a grade 3. You've got multiple horses shipping in here from Southern California. You got a couple horses coming off layoffs that I think are interesting. It's just, to me, the waters are really deep here. And if he drew the 2, I'd be a lot more interested, because then I know we're going to save ground around that first turn, and we're going to be able to set up that big run. If we get the right split around the second turn, we can come chugging. From the 12, it's going to be tough to be able to save any ground on either turn. And so to be able to ask him to do that and then be able to get up, I think maybe a little bit too much.
Yeah, slightly worried about him getting shuffled back farther than he could stand to have happen. But I like the progression. Mike, who is your top pick in this race?
So I went with the 4 Vanzi, 4-1 on the morning line. This horse is just there is speed in here, but the speed isn't wonderful. I think Vanzi is the best of the tactical speed. I think you're going to see him sit right behind the leaders here, probably sit on the rail or maybe in the 2-path in that second group, get first run on horses like Tiz Plus, so I think you're going to struggle a little bit being able to get the distance and the time here. Vanzi ran a 133 mile last time. That is tough against this field if we can replicate that time again. I like the fact that we're forwardly placed in this big field. I like the post. If you look at kind of everyone who was around him, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 5, they're all bigger prices. So you have him who's going to be one of the better horses, breaking from the inside, has races to point to. And then I'm a sucker. Second off the layoff here, at second out as a 5-year-old. This is a logical improvement spot. That first effort was awesome. The race 2 back, I can draw a line through because we went 6 furlongs. And I also like the fact that Baltus is now training this horse. He's one of the better turf trainers in Southern California. When he sends horses up to Northern California, they're usually very live. I don't think we're getting 4-1 on race day. I think this is going to be your favorite. I think you're probably sitting somewhere around 5-2 or 3-1, but I'm going 3 deep here. I think he's one of the ones you kind of have to include.
Yeah, I used him, and Matt, you're nodding your head too. I especially love Joe Bravo coming up to ride him. I thought he fits him perfectly.
And the thing is, Richard Baltus has actually won this race the last 2 years. He won with Neptune Storm in 2020, and last year he won with Whisper Not. So you've got a good trainer there. I would agree, he's probably the one to beat, but you see numbers 13 and 14, or you can't see them, but we do have numbers 13 and 14 in this race. So there's going to be some speed in this race for Vanzi to sort of track, because right there, Get Her Number, I think he's going to be up there, and Jimmy Blue Jeans, the local horse, is going to be up there, and I think the pace will be pretty swift. And Vanzi's going to get first jump on maybe a horse like Tom Surprise, or any of those types of horses that have a nice kick but sort of sit off and make a run.
You actually brought up the top pick for me is 5 Jimmy Blue Jeans, and for me,
Okay.
I think that this is speed of the speed, especially if Tiz Plus doesn't go with or manages to get away. I think this horse is best at a mile and the 16th. You scratch off those 9 furlong efforts, 2 and 3 back, and this horse is entering on a 4-race win streak. That includes a stakes win versus Cowbreds. Now, ironically, that came at 9 furlongs, but I really do think this horse is best at 8.5. So I used him, but I'm guessing, Mike, you think that he's cheap speed, or there's too much speed and he's not going to hold on?
I agree with Matt. I think there's a lot of speed in here. I like the 4 because you can be tactical with it, but I'm not going to use anyone else who's going to be on the lead here. I think this thing could actually collapse. It's what drew me to the local horse, number 6, Evening Sun, who made a huge move last time. And when I watched back that replay, it wasn't just a huge move. He kind of got stopped a couple times. It was a bad trip and was still able to get the job done and get up. So I think the 6 Evening Sun is really interesting here. It ran down in Southern California last time to beat Tiz Plus, but he pulled the entire time, and then he had to get steadied, and then he got up. But he was able to still kind of surge toward the wire and be able to get up. Buyers have been improving, so I think that's a positive. I think the pace sets up well for Evening Sun, so I think that's a positive. And I like the 6-1 price, which I actually think might float up a little bit here.
Yeah, I like it. He really hasn't had a bad turf route race since he came to America. 2 of his 3 wins have been in America. He should be 3 for 4, but he was DQ'd last July. We'll forget about that. But 8.5, 9 furlongs. This horse, it seems like right in his wheelhouse. Matt, you like the 6 as well? At least you think he should be on tickets?
I think he's interesting because, for one, Jeff Mullins has always liked this horse. He really has. And this horse has had some unlucky trips. And like you said, he already had an unlucky trip last time and still won. So I think he's going in the right direction. And before the nominations came out, I was just sort of scouting horses down south that might be interested in running in a race like this. And I think it's a perfect spot for him. I mean, he's pretty much run through all of his conditions. Speed figures indicate he fits. And I think he's a very interesting horse at 6-1. So I'm sort of with Mike on that.
Mike, I went 5 deep. You went 3 deep. We've covered all of the ones except for the last one we agree on. The number 10, Nolde, at 20-1. Go ahead.
Last 2 times we saw this horse, it lost to Mo Fuerza. There's absolutely no shame in that. We haven't seen Nolde since November 30th, 2019, the Grade 1 Hollywood Derby. Look, it is a long layoff. We're switching barns from the Sheriff barn over to the Steve Sherman barn. But what caught my eye here was not only the back class that you have here. So this horse was very good 2 years ago with his running, but also the workouts and everything that we've seen coming back here. You got a bullet on April 23rd, first of 64. Every workout is essentially running that 12 pattern where you're 12 seconds or less for each furlong. This horse had a ton of talent early on in its career, and we just had a long layoff here. The fact that you're coming back in this spot is what really drew me to this horse. This is super aggressive. I mean, 2019 was literally 3 years ago. This is a what, almost a 29-month layoff here that we're coming back from. And to decide that we're going to put this horse back in a Grade 3 tells you those workouts are legit, and this horse still has a ton of talent. So at 20-1, I'm willing to take a little bit of a flyer here and see what happens with Nolde. I like Vanzi. I like Evening Sun quite a bit, but I can't leave Nolde off at that price.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, you've got 10 other stakes winners facing him. There's 11 stakes winners in this race, and he's one of them. But you're right. You could have, not to pick on my home track Santa Anita, but they're kind of begging for horses to race down there right now and fill a card. Nolde wanted to come back at an optional claimer that was written with a condition that, non-winners have won in the last 27 months. He goes in there, right? You can easily fit this horse into a Santa Anita optional claimer and get him that rust knocked off. And they said, no, we're going to, Matt, either your biggest race of your entire meet or second biggest race with the El Camino Real. So my one question, Matt, Steve Sherman actually in the DRF article for this preview, he didn't seem excited, and he said, if we got third or better, it would be huge. I'd be tickled to death. Getting third or better would be like winning. So I need to know from you, the expert, is he just kind of BSing us? Is he trying to make us feel a little like don't get too excited? Or what do we read into this?
Steve's very honest. He's very forthcoming. Okay. He's a pretty honest guy. So I think what he's saying is exactly what it is. It's a lot to ask of a horse. I mean, he obviously is doing it in a way that Steve thinks in the mornings, well, this horse still has some ability, because when you're off for, over 2 years, you have to wonder, okay, what are they going to be like when they come back? I've been hearing from people that have watched his workouts that he worked with a horse named American Farmer the other morning, who's a very nice horse up here. He was actually thinking about running in this race, and they're just going to wait for the All-American because it seems like he likes Tapeta more. And they said that Nolby was all out to keep up with American Farmer, and American Farmer was going a little bit easier. But Nolby has been working quickly, and sometimes these horses, when they run in the afternoon or even get to turf, he's never run on a synthetic track, I don't think. So maybe if he gets back to the grass, that's really what he's going to be happy with. So Steve Sherman, one more thing. He's also not the type of trainer that's just going to throw a horse in a race because, well, it's 250,000, let's throw him in there. If he's coming off a long layoff like this, he must be sitting here saying, well, he's obviously got a little bit of ability still if he's running him in a race like this. So I mixed signals. It's going to be tough, but I think Steve's probably being pretty forthcoming on this one.
The nice thing, Mike, is that we're getting 20-1. This isn't like the 4-1 we're getting on fantasy. So we've got that going for us. And I wanted to, before we move on, Matt, you got some love in the chat here from Nick Sievers, Manu, to give him a shout out. Brian says, we miss you on the calls at Emerald Downs.
Very nice.
Yeah, very nice. Mike, that actually is going to lead us to the second leg of the late pick four sequence at Golden Gate Fields, race 10, the Lost in the Fog Stakes, where we've got a 6-furlong synthetic sprint for 10 older males. And Matt, there's only 2 Southern Invaders in this race. Does that mean that any port in a storm can win this for the 3rd straight running?
This horse I tried to beat in this race last year. I said, he's coming off a layoff. Come on, I'm going to try to beat a horse like this. And he ran the best race of his life that day. The thing about this race is that Better Trip Nick is a need the lead type of horse, number 4. And the good news is I've actually spoke to Jonathan Wong about this horse, and he says, well, if any port in a storm really wants to just go insanely fast out there, I suppose we can lay second. So now Better Trip Nick's got that option, but he's in a little bit of an interesting scenario because you don't want to let any port in a storm get a clear lead. Steve Mayotte, this horse is coming off a layoff, and Steve Mayotte is really good off of breaks. I mean, his horses are always fit off of layoff. That's not going to be a problem. The problem is whether he's not good enough or good enough, which would be a good thing in his case. So that's really the question you have to ask yourself. But there's a lot of speed, I think. I think those two are going to ensure a good pace. And by the way, Strong Constitution is entered at Santa Anita. A lot of people, of course, watching Santa Anita as well. From what I have been told, he is up here at Golden Gate Fields. He's going to scratch out of that Santa Anita race and run in this one. So he'll be in.
Good info. I didn't actually realize he was cross-centered. But, Mike, I know you like Strong Constitution, so that's got to be good news for you.
That's excellent news. I'm only going 2 deep here, and Strong Constitution is one of the 2 I'm going to use. Before we get into it, first off, how awesome is it that any port in a storm has won the Lost in the Fog twice? I mean, that's an incredible name set up for it, especially not even by Lost in the Fog, by City Zip. So that's pretty awesome. And for people who don't know Lost in the Fog, make sure you check him out. I think he won 11 of 13, something like that, and broke his maiden at Golden Gate, and then won at Saratoga and the H. Allen Jerkins. He won the Swale, I think it was, at Gulfstream Park. So really, really cool horse too. Yeah, I like Strong Constitution in this spot. I realize we're coming back from overseas, and that's not always the most wonderful thing. But Constitutions can handle the turf, they can handle the synth, they can handle the dirt. So I'm not worried at all about the synthetic surface. And when you look at how this race sets up, that to me is really the key. I mean, Matt mentioned it. Any port in the storm is going to be on this horse. You've got Murphy's Tiger, who went gate to wire last time, has a 100-time form figure. You've got some speed on the rail. Better Trip Nick absolutely needs the lead. You've got a lot of different horses that are going to stack up early here. I'm hoping that we can get 3 or 4 horses in a pace duel, and it sets up for someone coming off the pace. I think the best horse coming from off the pace is Strong Constitution. I think the race sets up really well for him. I think O'Neill is going to absolutely have this horse ready to fire. He's having a good meet over at Keeneland. He's having a lot of luck shipping horses out. So I'm gonna stick with O'Neill, trust him here, and hope that we're able to kind of run down the leaders early here at 9-2 and get over to the next leg.
I'm going to pass on him almost purely because of the Dubai bounce. It's hard to say what kind of form he had in Dubai because it's an interesting situation to throw the horse into. He didn't win in 3 starts over there, only hit the board once, but maybe he just didn't like it. It's a completely different scenario. He does have that one synthetic try where it was going 2 turns, and, cutting back to sprinting is probably what this horse is going to be best at anyway. I get mixed signals on him. I'm not going to use him, but it is interesting that Matt brought up that he was going to be cross-centered at Santa Anita, but is going to scratch and stay at Golden Gate. I'm going to pass on him. My top pick was Any Port in a Storm. Matt did a beautiful job of explaining why this horse is a great use, so I won't reiterate, but I went too deep. I used the 5 Cool Mountain Lad, and to me this one's interesting. There's 4 entries in here that have time form early pace figs of at least 100. That includes Any Port in a Storm. That includes Better Trip Nick, who I saw was getting a lot of love in the chat for his name. But this horse, if you scratch off 2 and 3 back because he drew inside, got buried and shuffled, he improved upon his career best effort last out. He could win this race. He could surprise you. And at 8-1, I'm getting a horse that's 5 for 9 sprinting on synthetic. 3 times he was a runner-up. I just think this horse is sitting on another career best effort. I don't know if he's going to do it, but Matt, as the local guy, Cool Mountain Lad, what are your thoughts?
In this race, I think Cool Mountain Lad is one of these horses that's very consistent. He loves the Tapeta, and he's going to get the right trip. So I think you could be onto something. I don't think he's the best horse in the race, but like we mentioned earlier, sometimes horses with the best trips win these races. He is flying under the radar. He's, for me, considered a wise guy horse. I think he's a very solid contender. He ran a really good race last time out, and I think he's freshened up since that race. So trainer Victor Trujillo, who also, by the way, is a good trainer, he's going to have him ready to roll.
Mike, I know you didn't use him. You just think he needs too much of a step forward?
The 1 Ultimate Bingo and the 5 Cool Mountain Lad were the 2 horses I considered, and I went with a big-time price over both of them, but I thought both of them kind of got the correct setup here. I'm a little worried that they've been beaten multiple times by multiple horses in here, so that's kind of what led me away from them. Italiano and Better Trip Nick had beaten Ultimate Bingo, and Cool Mountain Lad lost to Better Trip Nick, the 2 and 3 back. I agree with you, the trips weren't wonderful, but you're still going to have to work out a trip here, and there is going to be quite a bit of horses in front of him, so you're going to have to be able to either swing 5 wide or get the right split coming into the lane to be able to make that run. And with those, both the 1 and the 5, I feel like everything has to go right for them to win. They need that perfect trip versus someone like the 6, who I think maybe just have more talent to be able to overcome some of the issues that you run into. Other horse I'm going to use here, let's go all the way to the outside. Another 20-1 shot. We're trying to blow this thing up. We talked about Blaine Wright a little bit in the open. I'm going to use the 10 horse Top Executive here. Shipping in from Emerald Downs. This horse has run twice at Golden Gate. 1 win over the synthetic. So I like the fact that we've got a win over the track. Last 3 times won $50,000 stakes up at Emerald. Blaine Wright's very good trainer, does very well up there. Obviously does well at Golden Gate. We've got Orozco. I'm going to go the Roscoe, who's going to be riding this horse for the 5th time in a row. This is a horse where I think he can sit a tactical trip. And to me, that's the key. The fact that we've won it 1 mile and a 16th, we've won it 6.5 furlongs. The horse doesn't necessarily need the lead. The 10 post isn't the best post, but we're going to just kind of get a wide trip and see if we can win from outside and be able to run everybody down late. So I don't hate it either. Because, yeah, we may go a little bit further, but we're not getting stopped on the rail. We don't have to work out a trip like someone like the 1 horse Ultimate Bingo or Bango. So for me, I'm going to go with the 10 top Executive, who we haven't seen in a while either. That's the other key here. I like horses first off the layoff as a 4-year-old when they're aggressively placed like this. Blaine Wright, 20% in stakes races with a $7.91 ROI. That's freaking wild. $7.91 in stakes races on an ROI. You're getting 20-1 on him here. Very good off this type of layoff. 29% off 180 plus days. To me, this horse just makes a ton of sense, and the price is just massive.
Yeah, 20-1. Matt, you brought up Blaine Wright. Talk to us about Top Executive.
Well, I have some inside info on Top Executive, actually.
Oh, no. It's going to be 5-1 after this, isn't he?
And it's something that Mike's going to like. He is fit, ready to go, according to trainer Blaine Wright. And I have talked to other people, not Blaine, but other people that watch workouts, and I've asked a couple of them, okay, what horses are sort of look good to you out in the morning? And a few people told me Top Executive. They say, we've been watching this horse. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster. Looks like mentally he's matured. He's finishing his work strong. He's training fantastic. So the reports that this horse is actually doing really well in the mornings. And Blaine is not one to necessarily work his horses super fast all the time to begin with. So you see 115, 116, no problem. For Blaine, that's pretty typical. He wants him to finish the work strong. He'll throw a sharp half mile, as we saw actually with him a couple weeks ago. But this horse apparently is doing well. He's going to get the right trip. And keep this in mind, too. Last year, he was coming off a 7.5-month layoff. He went off at a big price, and he won an allowance race. And this year, he is coming off a 7-month layoff. He's in a tough spot, but he's got a good post.
Do you think we get anywhere near 20-1, or is it total pipe dream here that we're sitting there? Yeah, I mean, that was wonderful. I'm not sure if I wanted you to say that, but it's absolutely wonderful to hear. Do you think there is actual buzz around this horse? Like, were we going to be fighting to see double digits here, or do you think we might actually get somewhere in that 21 range?
I think you could get somewhere in the 20-1 range because he won stakes at Emerald Downs. I think that this what is a top executive case of the Shrill Spite morning line, right?
There were some scratches in there, to be fair, but 50-1 was a little ridiculous.
We top executive. I think you'll get a good price. He's winning some stakes at Emerald. There are going to be people that are going to ignore that, and I don't think they should. I think he's a really nice horse, and you're going to get the speed figures aren't quite as on par as some of these others, and keep that in mind too, because I think that buyers make a difference in the betting pools, especially 100%. when you have people betting, because there are probably going to be more people betting Golden Gate than typical, which means that you're going to get horses that are you're going to have people gravitating towards those horses, buyers, as a tool to try to figure out where do these horses fit. And especially with a horse coming from Emerald, that's something that probably a lot of people aren't used to really handicapping if they're handicapping Golden Gate today for either the first time or they do it just a few times a year, for example. So I think you'll get a pretty good price. 15-1, I'd be surprised if he was any lower than 12-1. I would be surprised. I think you're going to get 15 to 20-1.
I love it.
I think
great tournament horse too. If anyone's playing pick and praise, great tournament horse.
Literally going to say Mike found his tournament horse in this race right there. So you talked me onto the 10 as well. I had looked at the horse back and forth, and I was like, first time at 4 from Emerald. I'm going to chuck all those and listen to the expert. Off of that, real quick before we move on, Matt, Charles wants to know, is the outside of the track better at Golden Gate? Here we're going 6 furlongs, so it's not as much of a hindrance.
I would say it depends on the day. That's just the honest truth. I've seen times where the outside is a good place to be down the lane. Horses are coming from the outside and winning. I've seen the track on the inside be very, very fair. I don't typically see that many golden rails here, though. I don't see horses needing the rail to win. I don't see that as much as maybe an outside bias at times, but I would say it depends on the day, Charles.
That's fair. Appreciate it, Charles. Mike, we got the penultimate leg of the late pick 4 up next, and this is the Camilla Urso Stakes going 5 furlongs on the turf. We've got 10 older fillies and mares plus 2 also eligibles. Jonathan Wong wants to win this race so bad he put 4 entries in here. 2 of them are on the outside looking in. Mike, did either of the Wong horses in the race make your top pick?
Yes. I leaned on the Wongs here. The 6 horse, Dynasty of Her Own, I thought was really interesting in this spot. There's some speed, but not like an overabundance of speed going 5 furlongs on the turf. I'm a sucker for sprinters with speed on the turf, and I feel like that the 6 horse is the speed of the speed in this spot. And when you look at Dynasty of Her Own, you look at some of the losses. I mean, it's at 6.5 furlongs at Santa Anita in a stakes race. Makes the lead, not able to hold on. I'm totally willing to forgive that. Even some of the 6 furlong races at Golden Gate over the synthetic, makes the lead, not able to hold on. Again, totally fine with forgiving that one. You just draw a line through the last one. Was in a grade 3 down at Santa Anita. They went 21-3, 44-2. Dynasty Roan had absolutely no chance. I actually think it was only 4 horses. Ran 3rd in the 4-horse field, so not going to give too much love for the 3rd in the grade 3. But this is kind of getting back to the horses that she should be running against. I think that she fits really well here. So I'm going to put the 6 Dynasty of Her Own on top. I had one other must-use horse, and that was the number 4 horse, Never for Money, out of the Andy Mathis barn, coming off of a layoff here, 37% off a layoff with a $3.69 ROI. And this is kind of the hedge to the 6 horse, if you will. I think Never for Money is the horse that's best coming from off the pace. So I'm going to take the horse who I think is the speed of the speed, and then the horse who I think will sit the best trip if they do heat it up front when they use the 4 and the 6 as my 2 must-uses.
The 4 was my top pick, and you put out some great angles there. Matt, I'll throw it to you. We're talking about the 4, and we're talking about the 2 Wong horses. Help us out here. You're the local guy. What do you think about them?
Yeah, I've got plenty of info on these guys here. Never for money. We'll start with her. Another trainer, Andy Mathis, with a guy like Steve Miotti. They're very similar off of layoffs. They're really good at it. They're always fit. So this is not going to be a problem. And going 5 furlongs, it's probably a little easier to get a horse ready to go 5 than it is to go a mile first off a layoff, for example. But this gal they've always liked. She's sort of run through her conditions, and she's very workmanlike. I mean, she's not one that's going to be flashy in the mornings from what I've heard. She just is sort of steady, but she turns it on in the afternoon. So if you like her, just know that the fitness is not going to be a problem. The 2 Wong horses, I don't think either of them are going to be 5-1 or 6-1. I think they're both going to go off a little bit lower. Sadie Bluegrass had just a terrible trip last year in this race, and she probably should have won. She's one of these mares that like 90% of the time she's on, she's really solid. She's just a hard knocking mare. Then there's the 10% of the time where she'll just throw in a clunker every once in a while, and you sort of are like, where'd that come from? Like in the last start. So she comes with her race. I think she's going to be dangerous. And even though dynasty of her own, I think she's better on the Tapeta. She didn't have the greatest trip on the grass last year in this race either. Both of these runners ran in the race. And she worked really well. I watched her work out on XBTV. You can go there to find her last work, and she looked better than ever in that workout on the training track. And I actually am good friends with the exercise rider that day, Eric Lopez, and I said, did that horse work as good as it looked on TV? And he goes, let me tell you, if she runs like that, she's going to be a handful in that race. The question is, can she stalk and pounce? I think she's going to be fine at it because I think lots of pepper's going. I think the 2 is going to send out of there and go 20-4, 21 flat. So I think the pace is going to be fast with her in there. Dynasty of her own is going to try to keep up with her, I think.
I ended up not using either Wong horse because I was a little afraid of the speed setup here. It scared me off. Mike, the 4 was my top pick. I almost actually singled. I'm going to use the favorite here as well, the 9 Ricasa. This is the only Southern Invader in the field. Sports the buyers that are going to tower over a lot of this field, and really only one bad race since she came from Ireland to America, and that was in January 2020. Since she came in January 2020, that bad race was 2 back. She was a complete mess in the gate, though. But like they're trying to prepare the horses to get them going. She's flipping up. She's jumping up. She almost flips. That race, you just completely scratch it off. She's actually facing an easier field in this race than her last 2 starts. The Daisy Cutter, that had 6 stakes winners, and 4 of the 5 rivals in the optional claimer last out were already stakes winners. So that was not an optional claim. She's leaving another stakes race. Raimundo's Secret was in there. She's a grade 2 winner. So that was a very, very classy optional claiming event. 2 things to not like. 1, 3-1, not a great price on this horse. It's coming up to Golden Gate. Jessica Pfeiffer. I love Jessica Pfeiffer. I've loved her since she started riding. She is ice cold right now, and I don't know if a change of scene to Golden Gate's going to help her. I really hope it does. She's a great rider and a nice human being, but those are why I use her. Mike, why are you not?
Well, we'll start with 3-1. That's a problem. I would want more of 6 or 7-1 on this horse if I was going to play it. The second issue for me, and this is not like I'm getting a little nitpicky here, but we're carrying 123. This horse carried 115 last time out because of that Pfeiffer advantage, and 2 back in a stakes race carried 119. 123 is a pretty big step up for first time off a layoff for a barn that is not wonderful first off a layoff here. So 14% with a 75-cent ROI. So if I'm taking the favorite who is stepping up in weight with an ice cold jockey with a barn that doesn't fire that well off the first time, I must not like anyone else in here. And so for me, I would rather gravitate towards some other horses. I agree with all of your analyzation here. I do think this is a comparable field, maybe a little bit softer, but not drastically softer. And her best races all come when she is either on or very close to the lead. As Matt pointed out, it's going to be tough to be on or very close to the lead from the 9 post with the 2 blitzing out of the gate and the 6 having a ton of speed coming off a crazy 34-2 3 furlong work. So I think it's a lot to ask off the layoff at that price with the jock, with the weight, and so for me, I decided to go elsewhere here. I did use the 7 Sadie Bluegrass. I think this horse is going to get a trip. I mean, Matt talked about dynasty of her own. Can she stalk? We know Sadie Bluegrass can stalk, and she's going to sit right behind those 2 horses because she's got tactical speed to be there. I think she could absolutely pounce on the top 2, get first run, and be really tough to catch down the lane. And then, I kind of went back and forth. I'm going to go 4 deep here. I'm going to use the 8 Revelation. This horse has buyers that fit, has been good on the turf, good on synthetic. My biggest issue here is the turf and the 5 furlongs. I'm concerned it's a little bit too short for this horse, but the closing speed is what caught me, because I do think you could see this thing collapse even at 5 furlongs. And if they slow down at all going toward the wire, this horse is going to be flying. I also bet we get over 7-2 on race day. I think this horse is going to float up a little bit. So I think you end up getting around 5-1, 6-1. And I just want the one dead closer in the field in case this just all hell breaks loose here.
Matt, that jockey trainer combination of Alvarado McKenna's one, I don't even have to look, and I know that is a rock solid combination. So, would you say that is the best jockey trainer combination, or one of the best in the colony, or how would you rank it?
It's definitely one of the best in the colony for sure. I mean, these guys have been teaming up together, Frank and Tim. Frank, he's a veteran horseman. He's fantastic. He's a really good rider. And him and Tim McCann have done really well. Another good jockey trainer combination, believe it or not, also involves Frank Alvarado, one that I really like. I have to give a shout out to these two, Frank Alvarado and Steve Speck. That's a very effective jockey trainer combination. But whenever you see Frank riding for Tim, pretty much it's a guarantee the horse is live. I mean, they're always ready to run when Frank's on those horses and Tim puts him on live horses. I would agree with Mike's analysis, though, on a side note. I think 5 furlongs is short. She's going to need the right trip. One of my favorite racers at Golden Gate, though, because of that big closing kick she's got. She tries hard every time, and she's actually out of a broodmare, Reba's Tops, who was a multiple stakes winner, not just twice. I think she won like 7 or 8 stakes. And she's not a broodmare anymore. She's retired from being a broodmare, but I think she's produced 4 or 5 siblings, and pretty much all of them were really solid racehorses, all maiden special weight winners, all allowance, stakes caliber runners. So she's pretty cool. I just am a little concerned about that 5 furlongs.
Top Harbor sibling, stakes winner.
Yeah.
Calbred as well. I remember that horse. I was like at Reba's Tops. Like, that's familiar. Why do I know that?
He'll be back. Tim says he'll be back. He's on the farm. He'll be back, though, Top Harbor.
Good. I was just noticing he still hasn't run in 2022. All right, Mike. Final leg, late pick 4. Let's do it. Race 12. And Matt, I've got really good news for you, because this is the only race in the entire sequence where the home team is guaranteed to win. You have no Southern California trainers in this race. You do have the 5 Autisms World, who surprised me at 10-1. This is my top pick that I think is potentially a gate-to-wire winner here. But Matt, who stands out to you in this field?
This is, well, I don't think anybody stands out in this race. I think it's a wide open race.
Glad he gives you the tough questions.
Yeah, right. You know, it's too bad, because I would have taken a shot with Memo Daddy if it wasn't for that post. But once I saw that post, I think a horse like him is very interesting. I think trainer Michael McCarthy, when he had him down south and he wasn't really competitive against allowance foes down there, he's like, you know what? Let's just throw him in for 20 at Golden Gate. If someone claims him, someone claims him, and it is what it is. But he's better than people think he is. And I think against allowance foes at Golden Gate, which is typically a little easier, I think he fits. Rock Till You Drop looks like he's the morning line favorite. He's just one of these solid horses that he was solid sprinting, and then he sort of lost form. Isidro Tamayo, who trained him before Ed Moger, started routing him, and he was just like a whole new horse routing. And he's done really well since. One horse that's 8-1 that I think really could run a big race is Fridays at Shady. He's an old pro. I haven't made a top pick yet. I'm still sort of in the process of handicapping this card, but I'd probably lean towards him at 8-1. He needed his race 2 starts to go off a layoff. Last time out, he ran a really good race behind Far West, or in front of Far West. And Far West is a good horse, maybe not quite as good as these, but Fridays at Shady's won at this level before. He's got a good jockey, Evan Roman, riding, and the price looks right, at least on the morning line. So a very competitive race. Another race you could go many different ways, but I lean with the 4.
So I'm glad you brought up the 4 Fridays at Shady, because I ended up not using this horse. It was like right on the cusp for me. So you might be able to talk me into this one. The reason was that $4,000 allowance. Like, I don't understand the levels. So how big of a step up in class is this? Because I assume that was a rather large jump in class, and that to me was one of the biggest knocks against Fridays at Shady's. You mentioned one at this level before. Is that a big jump up? Is it kind of a comparable move? What's the 4,000 allowance here to the 25 N1X?
So anytime you see a starter 4, starter 8, starter 12-5 here at Golden Gate, it's essentially for any horse And I believe this race would have been any horse that has won for $4,000 or less in 2020 through 2022. They are eligible for this starter. Yeah, it's a lot. I'm looking at Magic there. Yeah, there's a big time span where you can be eligible for these conditions.
It's got that one $32,000 race, or $3,200 race there on the card that's getting them in there.
Yeah, and he was back in early 2021, late 2020. I think he was just really sour. He was a really sour horse. For whatever reason, he just wasn't running. He was losing a few races. His confidence went bad. He was always a very sound horse from what I've been told, but he just mentally was not getting into it. And once he won for 3,200, if you all look at the page, you can see it on the racing form, the past performances. This horse just said, okay, all right, I'm back here. And then he started going up the class ladder. So because he ran for $3,200, he's eligible for the starter 4. What's really interesting is these starter allowance races they're peculiar, but you get these horses that, like this horse, that's really a high claimer allowance type of horse, but they won, on January 1st, 2020 for $4,000, and they run in this race. And I don't think this is a huge bump up in class. Sometimes these starters come up very light. Other times they come up stronger. And I think that was a decent race because Far West is going well. On the same token, Nonu ran third that day. He's an $8,000 claimer, but he was also about 10 lengths behind those other two.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think that it's a little bit of a step up in class, but I don't think it's as significant as it looks. For example, Revelation. She was, or no, not Revelation. Yeah, Revelation and Sadie Bluegrass ran against each other in a starter 12-5 race a few months ago because both runners had been in for 12-5. Sadie Bluegrass broke her maiden for 12-5. Revelation won a 12-5 non-2 life. So, that's a little stake right there if you look at the top two.
And what is the purse usually for like a $4,000 starter allowance? Is it just the $4,000 or is there bigger purses and that's just the number?
That's not the purse. That's just the condition. I would say the purse, I don't know off the top of my head. I would say 18 to 22,000, and the purse here is 31,000, I believe. So, a little bit of a difference. I would say it's a little bump up in class, but it's not as significant. It's not like they were running against $4,000 claimers. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you're running for 18, that's a great spot to be in with that horse, right? Because you're going to catch the first or second check, and that's a great way to kind of come back from the layoff. And those first two races kind of get the form underneath you before you step up into this type of race.
I mean, Mended, I don't know if you folks remember Mended a few years ago, and she won like 9 or 10 in a row for John Martin. She ran in a starter 12-5 race up here and then proceeded to run in a grade 1 at Santa Anita and lost by about a neck. So because she was eligible for the starter allowance, John Martin said, okay, we're going to run her in an easy spot here. And then she went on to run in the grade 1 and win the the claiming crown at Gulfstream Park. She won a race over there. So sometimes you get these really nice horses that the race comes up, they're looking for a race, they can't find a race, they want to get a prep into them, they throw them in these starter races, and they win.
Matt, you laid out perfectly why I'm using Fridays at Shady. It was all about that confidence booster that sent Jack Steinerman. That's what I noticed before you came on. It's like, I like what he's doing with these horses. So I used him and I used the 5. Mike, I went 3 deep, and the third horse I used is what we agree on. That's the 9, Draw the Foul at 10-1. We've got a stretch out maiden winner facing older winners for the first time. Talk to the folks about why we like the 9.
Well, I kind of like speed. Just in general in these spots, the 6 horse, the 5 horse, Autism's World is the other horse that has speed, but I think you might actually see defer to the 9 horse who's coming out of sprint races here, 5.5 and 6 furlongs, has the higher time form number, 22 seconds for the first quarter last time. Will definitely clear this field if we want to go that fast. Probably won't get the distance if we go that fast, but it'll definitely clear the field at least. I like the fact that, look, the Giants Causeway horses stretch out well. They love synthetics, so I'm happy with both of those angles. And then you look at that maiden special weight, man, that race came back solid. So you field the 6 there. We've got both the second place finisher, who was a length and a half back one next time out, and the third place finisher. So you've got multiple next out winners. And I like the fact that the horse took a nice step forward here. Beyer improved by 16 points. So that's a nice jump up. A lesser known barn with Greg James, but we're 2 for 11 for the meet, 2 for 11 for the year. So I'm not going to knock that portion of it. I think this is your candidate to go wire to wire in a spot where he may kind of just get loose. And if Autism's World doesn't press, you might see a 24, 49, and all of a sudden you're worried about the sprinter who's got a lot left turning for home.
Matt, because I actually saw a little different than Mike. I thought the 5 would lead and the 9 would stalk just outside, but we're both kind of seeing the pace similarly. How do you think this is going to work? Break the tie for us.
I think the 5's going because I think he needs to. Draw the Foul, I think, actually has a little more sprint speed. But I think the 5's going and he's drawn inside, and I don't think Billy's going to mess around on this horse. Julian Coutan, who's riding number 9, Draw the Foul, he can take horses back, but he's also one that's pretty aggressive. I would say the pace will be contentious. I don't think either are going to be that far off. I want to note, too, just really quickly, that Draw the Foul, Greg James, who trains his horse, is not necessarily one to crank his horses up first out. So the fact that he took that step forward second time out was not a surprise to me. And I think that this trainer here, Greg James, is doing this old school 2 sprints to a route move. I think this horse is going to be better routing. So if you like him, you've got some upside here at a little bit of a price.
I like it. Mike, I'll turn it back over to you. I'm struggling to speak here. Who are your next horses?
Yeah, I got 2 horses left, and I've got to kick one off the ticket here to get the 4 on. I'm using the 6, who's the favorite, and I think makes a ton of sense here. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this horse. The pace should set up well. We talked about it. We've got multiple speed horses in here. Has a nice closing kick on Rock Till You Drop. So I think the 6 is a horse that you have to use. It was one of my 2 must-uses. I guess I'm cutting the 2 here because the other must-use for me was the 1 Whiskey and Wine, first off the claim for Jonathan Wong. This horse has some nice back races. If you go back to some of the 62 N2X over this track, the horse has been very impressive. 25 races over this course already as a 5-year-old, but has hit the board 9 of those 25 times. And seems to run well each time. If Jonathan can get this horse to take a slight step forward, look out. The 1 could be awfully tough here in Wine and Whiskey. So I'm going to go with the 1. The 2 horse, Bottle of Smoke, is the horse I'm going to cut here to get the 4 Friday at Shady's on my ticket. So if you want to spend a little more, Bottle of Smoke would be the horse I would use. Or if we have a scratch, Bottle of Smoke would be the next horse on for me. But I'm going to end up going 1, 4, 6, 9 in this spot.
Matt, how tough is Jonathan Wong first off the claim when he's not going to a stakes race?
He's tough. He's very tough. He does a good job. I mean, he wins at about 27% the last year or 2, first off the claim, and he's got a big sample size. But again, and this is not a knock on Jonathan, the bettors will gravitate towards him, and you get times where these horses are 6-5, 8-5, and they should be 5-2, 3-1. It's more competitive. He's done pretty well with Final, comes off a win last time out. But Wine and Whiskey's this back class horse. The last couple of races have been sort of poor. So he's a big-time question mark. I would try to beat him in a race like this because Jonathan's a good trainer, but he needs to get him to improve quite a bit in this race. And I like the morning line because I think it's fair. I think that this horse probably off his recent races should be higher than 4-1, but on the same token, you've got a trainer, Jonathan Wong, that does well first off the claim. He's your leading trainer, so I think people are going to give it a shot with him on the rail.
Well, the rail to me was a big part of this. If you look 2 and 4 back, we faced Tom Surprise, a horse we talked about, who's in the San Francisco Mile, and the last 2 times drew the 8 out of the 10 posts, and I believe all the way to the outside, if I remember, 8 out of 10, 7 out of 8, and that last trip was 4 wide, dropping back down to the N1X route number. So the fact we are on the inside was one of the main reasons I ended up gravitating toward the horse. So Matt, do you like the 2 more? Should I be on the 2 instead of the 1? Is that where?
That's a tough call. Bottle of Smoke, I liked him a couple races up this level, and he just is a bit inconsistent. And sometimes he has this hanging tendency, this horse. He looks like he's ready to run on, and he doesn't. He sort of plods in place. That's a tough one. I mean, I wish I could help you with this. I don't know. That's a tough one. Maybe if you could look in your wallet and, find a little more change, maybe you add both of them on there.
Find the extra $12 in there somehow. I mean, if we get 2 20-1 shot home and I picked the wrong one in this race, I'm going to be pissed I didn't spend the extra $12.
If I'm making a ticket, I'm probably trying to beat both of them personally, but that's just me personally,
I like it.
I don't want to talk you off of anything.
He's only the voice of the track and the simulcast host, Mike. He doesn't want to talk.
We'll just get the 4 or the 9 home, and everyone's happy.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll do that. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining Mike and I and our special guest, Matt Dinerman, the voice of Golden Gate Fields, for talking about Saturday's late pick 4. Matt, I know you're an extremely busy guy. You were eating brunch while we were getting ready to start the show. So I'll let you get out of here early, but one last time, plug your big weekend that you have coming up at Golden Gate Fields.
So we've got Gold Rush weekend. That's right. We've got 12 races on Saturday. $100,000 guaranteed in the late pick 5, $200,000 guaranteed in the late pick 4. Big card, 6 stakes races. We went over the pick 4 sequence, fantastic sequence. Sunday we've got 10 races. The overnight just came out. Late pick 4 guaranteed at $200,000 as well. Late pick 5 guaranteed at $100,000, just like Sunday. And then tomorrow's card too. Mike mentioned it. You want to tune in. We're the only we're the only California track in the daytime running. And we've got a $50,000 guarantee in the late pick 5 and a $100,000 guarantee in the late pick 4. And it's a pretty good little card. I need to dive into it in a little bit, but it looks pretty solid. So all week, it's a festive time up here for Northern California racing people.
If you're looking at a California track this weekend, if you're looking at a West Coast track this weekend, Golden Gate is the easy choice. I mean, great sequences, big fields, lots of great betting opportunities. So it's an awesome time to take advantage of these fields and these races.
I mean, look at this. It got up on the screen here. You've got starting in race 7, you have fields of 8, 9, 14, 10, 12, 11. And then even earlier, I bet some of those smaller field races, you can find a couple spots to get a price home. So, Matt, once more, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Have a great weekend, a successful weekend. Best of luck to you, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure chatting with you. Good luck. We'll have some fun this weekend.
Sounds great. We'll
Thanks,
get back
Matt.
in touch with you when summer hits and you're off. And then I know you start focusing on Del Mar a little bit. So
please do. You know where to find me. I'll be around.
He is on Twitter at the number 3 Colts Handicap. If you're not following him, you're doing something wrong with your life. Fix that at the number 3 Colts Handicap. Matt, take care, buddy. We'll see you later.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
You too, buddy. All right, Mike, we let Matt go. Busy guy. We're going to go ahead and give out our pick 4 tickets one last time. So take a look down below. Mike and I both been changing on the fly, but I think yours is updated as well there, Mike. I'm going to start off going 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, then 2, 5, 10, then 4, 9, then 4, 5, 9. That's $45. And when this show started, that was a $24 ticket.
I noticed that. Your wallet got a little fatter there, or
fatter.
A little less fat by the end of this, I should say.
Yeah,
I'm going to play a 50-cent ticket here. I'm going to go with 4, 6, 10, with 6, 10, with 4, 6, 7, 8, with 1, 4, 6, 9. It'll cost you $48 for 50 cents. I'm honestly excited to bet the 10 horse in the second leg of this now at 20-1 and the 9 horse in the last. Based on what Matt said, based on the fact that I already was high on those 2 horses, it seems like some real value on both of those sitting on the morning line at 20-1 for the 10 horse in the, the 10th race, and 10-1 on the 9 horse in the 12th race. So those are going to be tournament horses for me, and horses I will be firing a little cheddar at as long as we get something near that on race day.
And speaking of tournaments, if you're interested in playing a tournament against Mike and myself, the other racing dudes, Dr. Miranda, who likes to beat our ass on a regular basis, we have the 3rd Racing Dudes Tournament Challenge starting tomorrow, Friday, April 29th. So if you're a Racing Dudes, a premium member, it just costs you $10 to go enter. Go to your picks dashboard and scroll down. You'll see the link right there. If you're not a premium subscriber, do it right now. We've got, if you sign up for a monthly subscription for the next 2 months, you have the Kentucky Derby Guide, the Preakness Guide, and the Belmont Guide all coming out. Those 3 guides pay for your 2-month subscription. That's it. So if you're going to buy those 3 guides, buy the monthly subscription. It's going to pay for everything, and it gives you access to this really great tournament. Mike, you did a great video that's on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/racingdudes. But real quick, tell the folks about this tournament.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It's if you're subscribing, you get the both guides for free. So both the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness Guide, you get your money back right there for 1 month subscription, and then you're eligible to play in these tournaments. $10 to enter, cash prizes for the top 3, I believe, maybe sometimes the top 5, depending on how many people are in there. And then we're seeding the pool with $150 worth of Horse Tourney's site credit, so you can jump in some other tools if you are the highest subscriber in the tournament. So Miranda did not take home the site credit last time, so make sure you check it out. We'll also have a live show. I believe it's 4:30 to 5:30 tomorrow. We'll cover the last couple of races, talk about tournament strategy, and just have a good old time heading into the weekend. So make sure you check it out. Head over to racingdudes.com. The video will walk you through the steps once you're a subscriber on how to get into the tournament.
Yep, it is literally, it's right here. Exclusive Racing Dudes Tournament Challenge continues. Beat the Dudes, win cash prizes. It was a lot of fun on the live show 2 weeks ago because Jared and I both had the same horse in the last that got us from like the bottom. I ended up hitting the top 3, so that was pretty fun. It basically paid for my entry, and I think like $7 on top of that, so that was a lot of fun. Real quick, I wanted to let Matt go because we took a bunch of his time, but Charles has a question for you. In the last, this is about the Jonathan Wong horse that you're using. The fact that the horse is in for a tag and an optional claiming it, does it sway your mind? Talk to him.
No, not really. It's for me at that level that you see horses get traded quite a bit at Golden Gate. You want to put them in places they could win. I think that going in for a tag against N1X versus not going in for a tag against N2X is a better spot to bring the horse back. So it doesn't bother me that much. So I think it's a pretty good spot.
It's a good question though. And it's like with everything in horse racing, it's case dependent. In this specific situation, Jonathan Wong just claimed him for $25,000 out of the exact same race setup and is running him right back. So the fact that he's coming back at the same spot means Jonathan Wong looked at the horse and went, there's nothing wrong with him that necessitates dropping him to even lower. So I think that it's a fair sign that he's in this. There's nothing one way or the other than, Jonathan Wong first off the claim is 26-27%. So you mentioned earlier, Charles, that Jonathan Wong set up to have a huge day. So he could be. I'm not using any Jonathan Wong horses. Mike, this is going to be a very painful Monday, maybe.
That's odd for you. Normally you are all over Jonathan Wong horses, so I'm surprised. I need you to go over the rails. I got like 4 things.
And Ruben Fuentes.
Ruben Fuentes.
I'm 0 for 4 on the Ruben horses. All right, you want to go over the rails, you said?
Yeah, I got like 4 things. We got to go over them. Got to fall over the rails.
No antics of any kind except speed, and there we go with the antics.
Over the rail with you, my love.
Nobody asked
I love
me
the
that
slow
song.
jams.
It is a great song. I typed in over the rails, and that's what came up. All right, go for it, Mike.
Pete Aiello and then the slow jams. Amazing. First, Brett, check your DMs on Twitter. That's all I got on that one. Nick, congratulations, man. He popped the pick 5 at Keeneland for $1. I saw it going on in the chat.
Yeah.
Tyler Gaffleon took him wire to wire at Keeneland, so congratulations, man. Next one. I mentioned this on Twitter, so if you're following me on Twitter, you probably saw this yesterday. Oscar Performance, my boy. This is a horse that was very, 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 very good on the turf. Very good early, very fast early. Had 2 horses. First two sons of Oscar Performance debuted today at Keeneland. It had a 4-1 winner with Flavian Pratt. The horse looked awesome. I think Oscar Performance is going to be one of the breakout freshman sires. So we've never seen his horse at the track before, but I think he's going to have a very good turf season. Keep your eye out for Oscar Performance on both synthetic and on turf, because I think you're going to see some good stuff from Oscar Performance. So I wanted to make sure I called that one out. Magic, you an Oscar Performance lover?
Oh, yes.
Did you know the name?
I love
the name of the horse that won.
What's that?
The name of the horse that won.
This specific race?
Yeah.
And the winner is.
It's a great name for a horse
good.
by Oscar Performance. Because you got, if you're walking up, you got the envelope, the whole thing. So very well done there. And then the second one we got to talk about.
Spoiler
How
alert.
about Patna, baby? We had to bring it up. We somehow got 2-1 on Patna, who had a Chad Brown horse that was that drew in. I think it was Chad and I rad on a first-time starter. So it was a 1 and 1A. Patna broke out of the gate, went wire to wire. Why are we mentioning it? Patna was the first horse on Stable Him Up. You got 2-1 in an easy single in a tough race. If you watched that and picked it up. And why am I mentioning it again? We'll have another Stable Him Up coming very shortly. I found a horse today at Laurel that I need to talk about that I had in a tournament. I'm pretty frustrated about, but as a horse that you should 100% stable up. And I'm actually going to go a little into the handicapping side of it, of why I like the horse, and then why I think if we run back in the correct spot, you need to play this horse back. So we'll talk a little bit about that in the next Stable Him Up segment that should be live the next probably Monday or Tuesday, I'm guessing, Magic, because we got a little going on right now. So that one will probably be up sometime soon. So make sure you subscribe to the Racing Dudes YouTube page. You can subscribe down below if you're watching us live or watching the replay. And you'll get all of those different Stable Him Up notices, as well as all the Kentucky Derby coverage we're working on.
Yeah, by the way, Kentucky Derby's coming up in 9 days. I don't know if anybody's aware of that one. Over at racenews.com and youtube.com/racingdudes, we're doing a live daily show during the weekdays. So we have another one Friday and then Monday through Thursday next week. And it's just the 3 or 4 of us or whoever ends up showing up just talking about the news of the day. We start it at noon Central, so 1 Eastern and 10 Pacific. Join us in the chat. It's a lot of fun. We talk about Barber Road and we talk about other horses that might be named something other than Barber Road, but it's a lot of fun. So make sure you tune into that one. We'll be back for that one. And thank you, Dr. Tang, my son. I cannot believe on Sunday I'm going to be the father of a 1-year-old.
Wild.
I'm currently struggling to deal with that mentally while we come up to Kentucky Derby week. But hey, thank you so much for joining Mike and I. We really appreciate you as always. Thanks again to Matt Dinerman for joining us. He is at the #3 Colts Handicap on Twitter. Make sure you follow him. He really is fantastic. I think that's about it. Is there anything else? Oh wait, blinkers off. They'll be on some point. This is why you need to subscribe and hit the notification bell. They never have a set time. They just go.
We're always late, and you never know when they're going to be on.
Right, exactly. Hey, there we go. Put the overlay up one last time. Thank you again. I am at Curtis Kalleward. He is at Somobomb 18, #1 rate corporate overlords at racing_dudes. The inside track to the Kentucky Derby wagering guide is available for pre-sale. And if you are a premium subscriber, you get that for free or get that included. And you also get to be in the tournament challenge. We will see you tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern, right? 4:30 Eastern time?
Yep.
Ish. 4:30 Eastern. We'll be here at YouTube covering all the tournament stuff. Please join us. Until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Have a good day, boys.
This has been a presentation of RacingDudes.com, your destination for all things horse racing and sports betting. Whether you want free winners, expert insider picks, up-to-the-minute trackside weather reports, or podcasts and videos for bettors of all skill levels, never make another wager without visiting the Racing Dudes. First,